Hey everyone, I'm Lino, a Titan living in China, learning English. I downloaded this video immediately after seeing it. I thought it was very interesting. I felt that they would not stop dancing even if the fire burned in front of them. Maybe only the new coronavirus could stop them. Square dancing is incredibly popular in China. In any city and any park, you'll inevitably come across groups of people dancing in public squares. They dance in places you wouldn't expect them to, in hotel lobbies, on football fields where a game is going on roads with cars driving on them. They're everywhere. But to be honest, I wouldn't really call it dancing in the traditional sense. It's more like a kind of aerobics. The participants are almost always middle-aged or elderly people, predominantly women, with hardly any young people joining in. I've seen foreign tourists comment online about how lively and fun square dancing seems. They find it vibrant and refreshing. As a visitor, I can understand how it could seem charming and full of life. However, as someone who lives here long-term, I must say I have a strong dislike for square dancing. In fact, I'm not alone in this. Many young people in China feel the same way. It's not uncommon to see confrontations on social media between young people and these groups of middle-aged and elderly dancers. The problem is that they dance in any available public space they can find. This includes places like community parks, basketball courts, sidewalks, and even motor vehicle lanes. And they often play their music at extremely loud volumes, with songs that aren't exactly what younger generations would consider tasteful. I personally prefer parks to be peaceful, basketball courts to be used for basketball, and roads to be open for cars, not crowded with people dancing. Every time I see or hear square dancing, I feel a strong sense of annoyance. Why can't they just turn the volume down a little? I truly don't understand it. Imagine if you just finished a night shift and you're trying to catch up on sleep, but all you hear outside your window is blaring music. Or imagine trying to help your child with homework in the evening, only to be constantly interrupted by the same loud music. It's enough to drive anyone mad. I understand that in some areas, exercise facilities are limited, but ironically, even when there are good exercise options, many of these dancers still prefer to dance right next to them rather than use them. It's as if they believe dancing is the only form of exercise that matters. But the nuisance factor isn't the only reason I dislike square dancing. Another reason is what I'd call the red gene they bring with them. Why do I say this? There's a saying that square dancing today evolved from the loyalty dance during the Cultural Revolution, a way for people at that time to express their unwavering devotion to the leader. In that era of fervent loyalty, failing to enthusiastically show your allegiance could make life very difficult. It was a truly inhumane era, yet many people still miss it. Because ordinary people also held some power, they could criticize their parents and teachers and put them to death because of loyalty issues. Many of today's square dancers were Red Guards in their youth, or if not, they still have vivid memories of that period. In other words, people of that era had more or less participated in similar political activities. They value uniformity and group activity above all else. They have a popular saying, "Fighting against the sky and the earth is endless fun." So now there's a common saying online, "It's not that the old have turned bad, it's that bad people have gotten old." Every time I see square dancing, it instinctively reminds me of that chapter in history. The reform and opening up policies in China have been underway for about 30 years, and as a result, many people, particularly the young, have undergone shifts in their perspectives. Younger generations have begun to reflect critically on the past, but with the current political environment becoming more conservative, discussing that period openly is nearly impossible. That part of history has always been a taboo subject in China, and it's even more so now. These square dancers care primarily about their own enjoyment and rarely consider the impact they have on others. Ironically, they are the very ones who have benefited the most from China's reform policies. They have decent pensions, retire early, and have become the wealthy and idle group in society. 有钱又有闲. Yet, they continue to encroach on others' spaces and disrupt public order, and miss and praise that history. I always feel that the various arrogant behaviors of square dancing ants are not mainly due to their love for this sport, but to enjoy the pleasure of being able to do whatever they want because of the concept of respecting the elderly. In China, the generational conflict between the elderly and the young goes beyond square dancing. For instance, many people complain online about elderly people crowding buses during the morning rush hour. Why do they have to squeeze in with the young people going to work? Why should exhausted working young people give up their seats to the wealthy and idle elderly? These are the same people who seem full of energy when exercising early in the morning, but become frail and fragile as soon as they step onto a bus or subway. Some even resort to physical aggression if a young person doesn't give up a seat. When I hear foreign tourists say, "Square dancing is great. It's so lively, and these elderly people look so young at heart, I love it," I honestly feel like rolling my eyes. I know my perspective doesn't represent every young person in China, but from my observations, a majority of young people aren't fans of square dancing. The elderly, on the other hand, often feel that young people today are selfish and ungrateful. They believe they've worked hard their entire lives, finally reached retirement, and just want to enjoy a little leisure. Sometimes, I feel like this generational conflict is truly difficult to reconcile. Where does the problem really lie? Imagine this. Young people today graduate from top universities after years of hard work, only to face unaffordable housing prices and an increasingly competitive job market, not to mention issues like delayed retirement. Meanwhile, their parents' generation with little formal education could buy houses and cars by simply doing physical labor, and now they turn around to lecture the younger generation about life, boasting about how accomplished they are. You know, Chinese people often feel entitled to give advice to younger people, sometimes rather unsolicited. In my view, while our parents' generation had it tough, they lived in an era that was filled with hope and possibility. For our generation, despite material wealth, the future feels uncertain and anxiety-inducing. Square dancing, in a way, reflects the deep-seated problem of social opposition. What do you think? Does your country have similar issues?